Now, just to get an idea of the kind of tactics that Obama is capable of using, a court today struck down his recess appointments as unconstitutional. The three-judge panel ruling is a major blow to Mr. Obama. The judges ruled that the appointments he made to the National Labor Relations Board are illegal, and hence the five-person board did not have a quorum to operate. But the ruling has made even a broader constitutional significance, with the judges arguing that the president's recess appointment powers do not apply to intra-session appointments. In other words, those made when Congress has left town for a few days or weeks. And they said that Obama erred when he said he could claim the power to determine when he could make appointments. And I say this all comes about as the idea that the president can use his powers to fill offices when Congress is not there. But the intention was that this would be done because Congress didn't used to meet nearly year-round as they do now. So when they have not suspended session for the year, the court is saying that he has no right to make these appointments. If he has the right to make those appointments, he's going to be able to basically subvert the idea that the Congress has something to say about those appointments. But it's exactly the sort of thing we've seen before from the Obama administration. If you recall, in New Year's Eve of 2011, he passed the NDAA. He signed it, rather, I should say, when nobody was there and when nobody was paying attention. Everybody was busy with the holidays. And it's exactly the sort of thing that I'm afraid we're possibly going to see with the UN Arms Trade Treaty. Now, you may not realize it, but it takes 2/3 of the senators who are present in order to ratify a treaty. And I'm very much afraid that he's going to play some kind of a sleight of hand trick with this, just as we saw them do with the Obamacare passage, giving that to congressmen who had not even had a chance to read it and forcing them to vote on it, or playing some kind of a game with gun control in terms of shutting down filibusters. That's something that's also been talked about. Now, like New York cops, Illinois cops see themselves as a special ruling class with special privileges.
Okay, so police are now crossing locked fences without homeowners' consents. Laura, do you give consent for this officer to go onto her property?
He's not protecting me, he's protecting the city. This is like a dictatorship.
Officer, do you feel comfortable with what you're doing?
Ma'am, I'm not giving you the permission to record me, so please don't record me.
Okay, I won't.
And don't record my officers either.
I'm recording the city of Naperville.
Well, this is a continuation of a story that we first covered yesterday. In Naperville, Illinois, these residents who had concerns, health concerns about smart meters and didn't want them installed at their homes, and they have a federal lawsuit that is pending. Still, the police escorted utility workers over their locked fences and forcibly installed smart meters in their homes. Now, as you could see, this officer was not very comfortable being filmed. They asked him, "Are you really comfortable trespassing on our property and installing this?" And he kind of walks away beating his head, as you see him doing there. And then he comes back and tells them that he doesn't want them filming. Now, what happened was, as you saw, the lady complied with that. She turned the camera off of him. She continued to talk about it, and they posted that on YouTube. And once they saw that posted on YouTube, the police returned and arrested the lady. Now, this is something that is over and over again, especially in Illinois. And Illinois seems to have a particular problem with the police being filmed in public while they're doing their duty. If you recall, in May of 2012, the U.S. 7th Circuit Court of Appeals blocked the enforcement of a law that made it a felony to film officers in the state of Illinois. And at one point in time, one man was facing a life sentence for doing that. They had hit him with so many charges, and the charges were each about 15 years apiece. Now, that was overturned by the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals. The Cook County Attorney General appealed it. It was struck down by a court of appeals, and they have also had in Illinois, Tawanda Moore was charged with recording patrol officers, and a jury came back with just 1 hour. They acquitted her in that. So there have been multiple cases in Illinois. There have been other cases throughout the United States that say that we have a right to film the police. There is no expectation of privacy. They do not have special privileges just because they're police or just because they're in uniform. They record us all the time. We have the right and the responsibility to record them. It helps to keep them honest. What you saw in this video was the officer who was not comfortable and knew what he was doing was wrong, and that's why he didn't want to be recorded. Now, the TSA is conducting checks even here in Austin at train stations. That's right, train stations. They're taking their act on the road and they're going to train stations. Now, they're asking passengers to volunteer to have their bags searched. This is the way they're doing it because it's not legal. The random checks are labeled as voluntary, purely because if they were anything but voluntary, they would be unconstitutional, in violation of the Fourth Amendment, which protects against unreasonable searches. As we see in the video report on this article at InfoWars, all passengers were asked by the TSA agents to place their bags down on the platform to allow dogs to sniff away at them in search of drugs or explosives. And when the train arrived, the dogs were taken on board to check the cargo holds. This is the same type of thing that, if it sounds familiar, it's kind of similar, I guess, to the IRS telling us that the income tax system is a voluntary system and they just want you to comply with that. And so now violations of our Fourth Amendment are presented to us by armed guards in a group and say, we want you to voluntarily comply with this. So basically they're ruling by intimidation. And we're saying that the TSA is not strictly limiting their operation to the airport. They are the Transportation Security Agency. And as we've seen, they've done over 9,000 checks in the last year. They're in places that are not airports. They're going on the road, on the highways, and in the train stations and bus stations.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.